When one thinks about what makes great design, there is a language that we can often refer to called the design principles and elements. These principles would include unity and harmony, where all the design elements kind of look the same, can be the same color or the same shape. We then go on to balance, which can include formal balance, informal balance, and radial balance. Scale and proportion, which would be a size comparison of one thing to another. Emphasis, where one thing would stand out or one thing is the central kind of focal point. We have contrast, which can be made with colors and sizes. Rhythm, which can include random rhythm, gradated rhythm, graduated rhythm, or regular rhythm, which is pattern, which we will most often see. The elements can include space, so that can be open or cluttered, shape, which could be organic, mechanical, form, which can be like a 3D form or a 2D. So that would be comparing like circles and spheres or pyramids and triangles, things like that. Value, which can be related to color, so a lighter shade of red or a dark shadow. Line, which can be linear or curvy, depending on what the designer is going for, and then color. We'll see all of these elements and principles in different things such as architecture. You can even find them in plants or really anything that has been designed. A good design always has multiple of these elements or principles. Let's take a look at some examples. At this picture of guitars, we can see that we have a couple of different elements here. We've got rhythm just from the shape of the photograph and the fact that they're kind of placed along each other, providing that pattern. Color with the different colors of the glazes that are provided for the consumer, and then the curvy lines along with that circular shape in the middle. So lots of elements and principles. Of emphasis with the picture taken being the little doll in the middle is in the central location and in focus, whereas the dolls on either side are out of focus. So there's your emphasis, and then texture I think is relevant in the little hat that he has. At the University of Missouri, these are the iconic columns that were destroyed in a fire. So this is all that was left of that building, and definitely have some regular rhythm happening along with the lines atop the iconic or ionic columns. An example of space, and being that it's very cluttered and cramped with the picture of the shrine here. So we've got lots of elements in a shrine with all the pictures and the candles, but it creates a very cramped or cluttered space. So another element and principle of design. Great example of how architecture can use the design principles and elements. So we've got some contrast in color, contrast being the gate surrounding the building being all black, and then the building being all white. And that's typical of that neoclassical architecture where it's all white, and then so it's providing unity within the entire residence. An example of contrasting textures within a building, we've got the glass and then the steel of the mullions, which are providing great line work within the design of the building. Lots of kind of federalism architecture happening, so lots of symmetrical buildings, which is related to formal balance. And here is a good example looking directly at here at the St. Mary's Cathedral. We've got lots of principles and elements happening. Let's start with the door being a different texture, which provides emphasis, which makes that definitely the entrance. We've got contrast with the door being a different material than the veneer of the building. We've got radial rhythm happening in the rose window above the entrance, and then the different textures happening with the wooden door and the limestone building. San Antonio, just some famous figures from San Antonian history. and lots of harmony happening with the color and texture of the different sculptures. So again, just noting the design principles and elements even in a sculpture. Okay, this is a good example of texture. It's a little art piece on the shrine that we looked at earlier. So we can see the different textures with the hair and then the glitter and the different little clay sculptures, and then again with the color relevant in each of the different sculptures, making each piece kind of stand out on their own. Before, but again we can see the line work in the Ionic columns, the white color which is continuous throughout the entire building, creating harmony, and then we've got the little balusters creating a pattern which is rhythm. In the same picture of the castle, we've got some pattern happening with the windows or with the loopholes, and then line work happening with the curved lines at the top and then the long vertical lines. Lots of space within the castle, so you can see that with the sky and in the background. This picture we can see a couple of different things happening. We have shape with the cross, and then the little bird profile is giving us another kind of organic shape. We've got form with the 3D work in the stone, and then it really gives us a sense of space with the cross and then the big sky in the background. Of design principles and elements in nature, so we have some regular rhythm happening within the leaves, and then we've got some random rhythm happening within the flower petals and lots of color. We can clearly see different textures happening within the statue and the color variation from the weather conditions on the sculpture, and then some line work happening with the draping of the fabric. A picture of the castle, we can really see proportion with the size of the windows being small, and then you can tell how big and massive the castle actually is. You can see some curvature in the lines and then some angular lines as well, and lots of rough texture. Of the castle, we've got some pattern happening with the windows or with the loopholes, and then line work happening with the curved lines at the top and then the long vertical lines. Lots of space within the castle, so you can see that with the sky and in the background. Color being used within all the housing units, the random rhythm with the different pitches and roof heights, and this all creates kind of a united feel within the neighborhood. Coffee cups, and then the rough texture of the shelving.